why? So, in fantastic scheduling decisions, at least the next two times these teams play, they'll be matinee games. So, thank thank all that's holy for that. So you'll notice there's a lot of magnets on the board because I figured why not. Now I do have a bumper sticker for the Canucks, and I wanted to make like a whole board for this, and then I realized I don't have one for Calgary, so I've ordered one. It's not going to get here in time. So Jack with it. I even got Atlanta in there. I've got the Blasty shoulders on there, and Flying V over here, and sure, why not? Sure. So this was a game that happened. There was some hockey that took place. Um, and then the Canucks almost forgot. See, we talk about tanking, right? And we talk about how well the team's not tanking, right? Because the players don't care. There's not a player on the bench that's saying, "Boy, I hope we lose tonight so we get a better draft pick." That's not a thing. So a strong start for the Flames. Hoglander would take a penalty. Ryan nearly gets one. The Canucks kill it off. Eh. The Flames power play tonight. How did it end up? I didn't even track it. Doesn't matter. Doesn't, doesn't matter. Did they score a power play goal? Nah, I didn't track a power play goal, so I guess they didn't get one. Um, Nobody's gonna watch this. So Hamannik was stopped on his opportunity. Holtby and Markstrom both passing tests in the first half. They'd failed them miserably by the end of the game. Ruzicka looking for his first NHL goal. Well, guess what, kid? You're not getting it. Levo then scores at 9 minutes and 30 seconds. So thanks, Vancouver, I guess. Right? So Levo coming on strong. A few games left. Gadjevic guilty of the turnover on that one. The Canucks 5-23-1, allowing the first goal. Now they're 5-23-2. It's that's not a lot of wins. All right. Means they've allowed the first goal 30 times this year, and you wonder why they're in this position. Nobody's wondering why they're in this position. We all know why they're in this position. Lindholm couldn't bury one as the Flames press. Ruzicka takes his first National Hockey League penalty, so that's a way to get on the board. Canucks get a power play. That was a no. Lucic then manhandled Levy. I gotta admit, I kind of chuckled. He just decides you will be out of my way, and that's what happens if you're in Lucic's way and he decides you will no longer be in his way. You are no longer in his way. Anderson was then stopped by Holtby. Smart plays by Highmore, and I'm going to say straight out, I like Highmore. If they keep Matthew Highmore for next year, I'm not going to kick and scream about it. I think of the additions they've made, I think he's been fine. I really think what we've learned is what we kind of knew, which is that you've got guys like VC and Boyd and Highmore, and these guys are all on cheap contracts. Your bottom six can all be on cheap contracts. That's what we've learned. So I also felt like maybe they should start letting offsides and icings go, which the Flames clearly decided they wanted the referee to do and the linesman to do. They weren't going to. We'll come back to it. So it's 1-0 after one. And I thought, good. As long as there's not a bunch of scoring or a bunch of penalties, this game should go quickly. This is the last game for the season for Garrett and Shorthouse, and I have to say that John Garrett and John Shorthouse have done a good job this year. I know that John Garrett takes a lot of flack for being a homer, and he is, sure. Listening to every broadcast from around the NHL, I really don't think he's that bad. I think he's pretty transparent about it, and at least he admits it. Whereas others will yell and scream about how horrible certain calls are. And, as an unbiased observer of some of those games, I'll say, I don't know what they're talking about. That's a perfectly fine penalty, or that's a perfectly fine not penalty, or that's a perfectly fine goal. And I don't have that same issue with Garrett. Not often that he says something and I'm thinking, boy, that's a homer call. Now, when he used to be asked about champions and trophies, and he would pick the Canucks every year to win the Stanley Cup, I thought, man, that's dedication. Besser whiffed on one as the Canucks pressed early. He took that personally, didn't he? Haraluk gets hurt. No weight on his left leg. He came back though, didn't he? I don't know. He didn't have any weight on his left leg, though, as he left the ice. Goudreau then hits the outside of the post. Holtby stopped a Dubé shot. Somewhere in the middle of all this, I was playing with our bunny rabbits. So, I mean, I was So, yeah. Lucic scores from Levo and Stone at 5:48. So I put thanks Vancouver again because it's 2-0 and Levo with a goal and an assist. So good for Josh Levo. Nice to see him padding his stats a bit at the end of the season. It feels like these teams said, can we just pad our stats? The ref went, fine, whatever. So Mackey had a fight with Gadjevich. Gadjevich was upset after a hit on Highmore by Mackey that he didn't like. So what happens is Mackey was going to get a penalty, but because Gadjevich drops the gloves, he gets the instigator, the 5 minutes, and the 10-minute misconduct. So 17 minutes and penalties. People will look at his stat line from tonight and say, wow, the Canucks have an enforcer, huh? Nope. But you know what? The kid I thought did okay. He did have the turnover on the Levo goal, but, I mean, it's his first game, and it's not a game of any consequence for the Canucks or for the Flames, so I really can't say anything bad about him. If he ends up being the guy Seattle takes, and there's been some discussions of who Seattle's going to take in the expansion draft and, you know, who might be protected by the Canucks are not going to lose any key members of the team in expansion. Tkachuk scores from Lindholm and Gaudreau at 7 minutes and 14 seconds. That's 2 goals for the Flames in the second period, and at this stage the Canucks had 2 shots in the second period. So that tells you how well things were going for them. Less than a minute later, Mangiapane scores from Dubé and Backlund at 8:05. So that made it 4-0. Now, Hamonic would score from Hughes at 13:21. So just to be fair, I wrote thank you Calgary for the Hamonic goal. And it was a decent goal, and Quinn Hughes with the assist, so there you go. But less than a minute later, Mangiapane scores his second of the game from Mackey and Backlund at 14:03. So Mackey with a fight and with an assist now only needs is the goal. He doesn't get the goal. Spoiler alert. 5 minutes and 40 seconds left. The Flames get a power play. It's a 4-minute penalty on Besser. And I thought I might need more magnets. Keep in mind that on boards I have 7 magnets for each team. So I was like, all right, so it's 5-1. It's a 4-minute power play. This is going to get ugly. The thing is that during that power play, the Flames were offside, and it was like they didn't care. So they get the intentional offside call, and it went to the other end. And I thought that's interesting because you can hear them yelling off, and I don't care. Whatever, blow the damn whistle. Then I don't care. So they blew the whistle. Yeah, Canucks penalty kill had been okay, and so because their penalty kill was doing well, the Canucks decide, hey, this is the part of the game we're doing well in, let's take another penalty. So there was another penalty taken right after it ended, and then Ulevy decided, let's make it more interesting, and he broke his stick with to make it a 5-on-3.5. I think it was Graovac handed off his stick to, or it may have been Highmore handed off his stick to Ulevy and then just kind of skated off to get a new one. Not a big deal. They're behind 5-1 at this point, so whatever. But they survived it. So we go to the third period. Early power play for the Canucks, which was 0 for its last 22. Predictable. Backlund penalty, and they score on it. So they ruin that perfect record. Graovac scores from Miller and Hughes at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Hoglander then nearly gets one. Doesn't, so he decides to take a penalty instead. That way you get on the score sheet. So you're like, I'd like to get a goal. All right, well, I'll just go trip somebody then. I'll get my name in the pages. Flames going offside again. So that was a thing. And again, I thought it was bold. I really think that to make the game go a little faster, maybe for the next 2 games, can we just not call offsides? We won't call icings. We'll just make the game go a little faster. Because all these penalties were really bogging it down. Out of the box, Hoglander to Horvat on a 2-on-1. That was broken up. The Flames take another penalty. These prolong the game. Stop it. I wrote that right on the board. These prolong the game. Stop it. And then Besser scores on the power play from Hughes at 7:47. So 5-3. Canucks then almost add another. And then with 9:19 left, Horvat takes a penalty. So then, okay, so now Calgary's going to finally get that power play goal they need. And that's going to stop this foolishness. But the foolishness would continue. Miller scores shorthanded from VC at 11:28. Didn't Horvat score a shorthanded goal while Miller was in the box? Now Miller's scoring a shorthanded goal while Horvat's in the box. Is this some kind of like a bet they have going? That bet you can't score while I'm in the box, bet you can. All right, $20. I don't know. Canucks then get another power play. Besser was slashed on that play. Edler's not allowed to score. We had no idea just how literal this Besser's not allowed to score was until it looked like Edler had scored. And I cheered because I've been waiting for Edler to get his 100th goal all season. He hasn't had a goal all year. Besser tipped it. Now, that puck may have been going wide before Besser tipped it. Or Besser secretly hates Edler. You guys can decide. Scores from Edler and Miller at 17:58, so that ties the game. Besser with 2 goals in the third period. He ties the game. And I'm thinking is pad the stats. Sure. So the Canucks, who are playing their 25th game in 15 days or something like that, get 4 goals in the third, because why not? Nothing makes any sense. Why make sense now? Holtby then robbed Dubé in the last minute, so we go to overtime, because of course we do, because that's what happens. You get a game that means nothing after I've watched 3 playoff games that were fantastic. You have this bizarre third period that I can't make heads or tails out of, and so why not have overtime? Because I wasn't up early enough this morning. Besser's shot was saved. He had numerous opportunities at a hat trick, and as pleasant as Markstrom was to deal with tonight for the Canucks, he was unpleasant in the overtime. Horvat had one that was saved, and then Besser beats Markstrom, couldn't beat the crossbar. And then Edler gets his 100th goal. Not really. It went in off his stick. Lindholm trying to pass it across the front of the net. Edler, bold strategy, puts it in his own net instead. Valimaki with the assist at 3:24. That does not qualify as the 100th goal for Edler. You are not allowed to score for the other team. I don't know that that's the first time Edler's put a puck in his own net this year. I don't know. It was his 8th assist on the Besser goal, but we're 2 games away from what might be the end of his time in Vancouver. Maybe he retires after the season's done, but I'm thinking the odds are now against Edler getting that 100th goal. 3 stars were Besser, Mangiapane, and Hughes, according to John Garrett. And I don't have a problem with that. I guess you could have thrown Lindholm. He had the game-winning goal, and Levo had a goal and an assist. But yeah, it's fine. Have a top 7 stars. I don't know. Make it take longer. Shots were 11-6 Calgary in the first. They were 16-8 Calgary in the second. 18-7 Vancouver in the third. 3-2 Vancouver in overtime. Final shots 36-35 for Calgary. These puffy stickers, these are from the 80s. I got a set of those like about a month ago. Never got to use them in videos, and now here we are. And then here's the other magnets. You guys, if you have a phone, you're not going to see what this is. Just the logos. The hits were 13-8 Calgary, because this was not a big hitting game. Remember, there were games with 80 hits today. This one had 20. Block shots 19-14 Vancouver, and I do not expect players to be going out there and hitting like crazy and having that level of intensity. I really don't expect it. Penalty minutes 29-15 for Vancouver, so there were 44 penalty minutes. That's kind of awesome. Markstrom saves 30 out of 35 and wins. Holtby saves 30 out of 36. Both of these goaltenders on kind of high-priced contracts, and their stats take a beating tonight. Again, I know there are those who expect, well, Holtby's going to get taken by Seattle, right? No. If I'm Ron Francis and I'm looking at this season, I'm looking at what Holtby's done, there are other options that are better for my team, that are cheaper, that are younger. And yeah, so there you go. Calgary wins 6-5 in overtime in a game that I don't know that they necessarily wanted to win, but Edler gets in the extra point. With the point that the Canucks get, they go to 22-28-4. They do pass Columbus. They're tied in points with Columbus. They have more regulation wins. So congratulations, Columbus. Your odds of finishing with the number 1 draft pick just went up tonight. Calgary goes to 25-26-3. And there you go. A game happened. We got 2 more of these left. But hey, Besser with a couple of goals, and yeah, again, Canucks pad their stats. And I will say this, Graovacs look good. Graovac is another example of a bottom 6 guy and on a good contract. And if this is how the Canucks need to do it, I don't know how they're going to make it work, but they need to get the big contracts out of that bottom 6 and go forward with a cheap bottom 6 that makes sense, and that they're guys who are really working hard for that next paycheck. And that's where we're at, because if you save that money in your bottom 6, you can then really amp up your top 6, and if you save on your bottom 2 defensemen, you can make your top 4 defensemen that much better. This is really basic economics in the cap era, and hopefully the Canucks are learning that lesson. I've got my fingers crossed on that one. Let me know your thoughts if you watched this game at all. If you didn't, okay, you can let me know your thoughts as well. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If for some reason this is the video you came upon the channel with, I did a lot of people watch this? And hey, thank you guys so much for watching this video and sitting through it, because kudos, absolute kudos to you. And I apologize that this is going to post as late at night as it's going to on the East Coast. But good morning, Europe. So there's that. All right, thank you guys so much for all your support. After a long day of hockey, I'm done for now. And tomorrow we'll get into previewing the playoff action. The Canucks play again on Tuesday, and then they play on Wednesday. They're both matinee games, and then they're done. I will say this for the Vancouver Canucks. All kidding aside, it is nice to see the effort is still there and that they are still playing as hard as they can, even when they're down 5-1 entering the third period. And so that's nice to see. I mean, yes, it would be nice to get that number 1 draft pick. It's not going to happen. Canucks don't win draft lotteries. It'd be nice to draft as high as possible, but this draft is such a wild card and it's so all over the place. I'm okay with them winning these games, or in this case, getting a point that they otherwise probably wouldn't have had. Thanks for all your support. As I said, I will talk to you again in the morning.